Hi, hello and welcome. Welcome back to another Onkruid video. Welcome to something completely random. It's weird to hear my voice without my headphones on. I'm challenging myself to string together 10 minutes of sentences to make an insightful whole, to make something worthwhile for you to listen to. Just rambling. I was watching the Google Chrome pages just scroll by, whether it was on the Instagram website, on the YouTube website, on Reddit, and I was thinking about I'm focused way too much on consuming again, whereas I could also be producing. Don't get me wrong, produced a couple of videos today, edited a Witcher video, or a video in The Witcher 3 The Wild Hunt is a bit more of an accurate statement, I think. I recorded, rendered, and am now uploading a Heroes of the Storm video, or two, no, just one I think, but I was also uploading another one earlier today. So it's been a productive day, but I wanted to produce some more thoughts, practice my speech, practice my thinking, practice my ability of clear thinking, kill a bunch of birds in one stone. Not that I necessarily want to kill birds, I'm quite a nature-loving person, but I was sitting here with my cup of coffee and I was like, let's produce instead of consume. What am I going to talk about today though? That's the hard part in all of this. It's coming up with a topic and then coming up with future productive thoughts about that. One thing I was watching yesterday was 2 Park Notes videos. As you know, I love that guy. I watch all of his content, I think, since I've started following him, which is a couple of months ago. Since then, I don't think I have missed a video. And I find it interesting that he has so many videos with a similar vibe, where you can even sometimes think or wrongly assume that the video is gonna be exactly the same as video you've seen already. In a sense of, I feel like he has multiple videos already on how to distinguish between different types of notebooks, how to distinguish between compendiums and commonplace books and catch-all notebooks, how to distinguish between a journal and a diary. And it got me thinking, he has all this different content about classification, about classifying different, I'm gonna try something here, different genuses, which is probably genii in plural, not sure, into their specific species, trying to lend a bit from his vocabulary, from his philosophy-inspired videos. And I think we humans do that a bit too often. In my field of work, in the field of psychotherapy and especially psychodiagnostic research or just diagnostical research, psychodiagnostical research, not diagnostic, that's not the word for sure. They do it often, and a bit too often. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, the DSM-5, the main focus is to introduce categories and categorical definitions for every single disorder out there. Checklists, and if you have collected, not that it's something you want to collect, but if somebody evaluates you and they can tick off, for example, 5 out of 9 boxes in the last 6 months, you have the diagnosis. Clear cut, no woozy edges, no gray area. It really is a yes or no story. And I think we humans do that a bit too often. Why do we do it? Well, because it helps us to think, of course. It helps, for example, practitioners in my job to immediately realize this person is depressed rather. That could mean that these symptoms arise, that could mean that their sex drive is lower, that could mean that their appetite is ruined, that could mean that they stay in bed all day. It could also mean a whole bunch of other things, depressive disorder, major depressive disorder, or a depression doesn't necessarily mean sadness and staying in bed and not doing anything. I digress. We use it to make quick conceptualizations of the world around us, of people around us, of situations, even of ourselves sometimes. I am a gamer, for example, that immediately says a whole bunch of things about me already, but I'm also a psychologist. Those are 2 of the categories, 2 of the little boxes I would gladly put myself in. We use it to interpret the huge amount of information around us in a quick manner. But it of course helps us to or it of course not incentivizes us, but makes it easier for us to think about things in terms of stereotypes or in terms of overgeneralizations. If I told you I'm a gamer like I just did, you might immediately think this guy has no life. He has no social life, he has no personal life, he spends 20 minutes, he spends 20 hours out of the 24 hours in a day behind his computer screen, sleeps for 4 and then gets back on the grind. It's a little bit extreme, but I'm just letting it roll off the tongue with the numbers that come up immediately. It's not necessarily the case. I have a job, I have a girlfriend for the past 8 years, I have my own home, I have hobbies, I have quite an active and filled social life, but I do enjoy playing games in my free time as well. The gamer classification, the gamer label, immediately makes you come up with like a whole bunch of stereotypes and a whole bunch of value judgments that you make immediately, in spite of the possibility that there is other information out there, in spite of the information that there are other examples out there, that there are gamers out there that just do it for an hour or two a day. Some days they don't push the on button on their computer at all. Very sad days. I'm just kidding. It doesn't necessarily have to be the extreme. And that's where I think the crux comes in. That's where I think the key of the story I want to tell today comes in, is like, don't be too fast with that categorization and don't be too extensive with it. Don't over categorize things. And I think that's what we sometimes fall into. Why have 4 different types of notebooks where you collect your thoughts? Just collect your thoughts. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate certain separations. Like, for example, one of the separations SparkNotes made was commonplace books, I have to use the right terminology, commonplace books dedicated to production, dedicated to manuscripting, dedicated to producing your own thoughts, versus commonplace books collecting other people's thoughts, ideas, sentiments, printed commonplace books, if you will. I appreciate some categorization. I think it's important to keep things apart from each other, to keep the lines clear, to have a certain amount of those boxes. Like, for example, in my field of work, this person is suffering more on the mood disorder side of things. This person is suffering more from what seems to be an anxiety disorder. This person seems to be suffering from something in terms of a psychotic disorder. They can immediately tell you a whole bunch of information, but don't go too far into it. In 2 ways. Don't go too far into it in a sense of... One second. Oh yeah, that's good. Don't go too far into it in a sense of don't dissect the labels into 1 million separate distinguishable sub-labels. That's an over compartmentalization of reality. That is drawing way too many boxes. Take some of those boxes together. That's one way where you should not go too far into the categorization of things. Alright, one edit because I lost my train of thought. The second way where you need to be careful with over compartmentalizing things is to give them too much power, the categories you are using, to think you already know everything there is to know about a certain subject or a certain individual or whatever you are trying to think about, because you know what category it belongs to. Kind of comes back to overgeneralization, if you will. If somebody tells you they are male, they are cisgender, they are white, don't immediately start getting prejudice. Don't immediately start getting biased towards the negative side, because those are the labels we nowadays stick onto people that are in power and misuse power. Maybe I am a white cisgender male that is an ally of everybody in the LGBTQIA plus community. Maybe it's AI plus, I'm not certain, I'm sorry. Maybe I respect everybody having their own gender identity. Maybe I am not one of the old bags that doesn't respect people developing new senses of identity and new senses of self. So don't go too far into subdividing everything into very, very specific categories. And also don't lose your thought just to those categories. Try to be a bit more specific and try to gather a bit more information about the subject before immediately thinking you know everything about it because it is in a certain category. Let me know what you think about that. Thank you very much for listening. Don't watch, listen. It's just my face. Nothing to look at here. Bye bye.